ॐ न सदासीन्नो सदासीत्तदानीम् नासीद्रजो नो व्योमा परो यत् किमावरीवः कुहकस्य शरमन्न अम्भः किमासीद् गहनम् गभीरम् न मृत्युरमृतन्नरहिना रात्र्या अन्न आसीत् प्रकेतः आनीदवादग्गस्वरया तदेकम् तस्माद्धान्यन्न परः किञ्चनासा तम आसीत् तमसा गूढमग्रे प्रकेतम् सलिलग सर्वमा इदम् तुच्छेनाभ्यभिहितं यदासीत्.
Namaskar. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce Professor Ganesh Umakant-Thite. I am Maitreyee Despande, his student. Professor Ganesh Umakant-Thite retired as Professor and Head of the Department of Sanskrit and Prakrit Languages at the University of Pune. He presently works at the Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute. He is the General Editor of the Mahabharata Cultural Index being made there. He has numerous publications to his credit, such as Sacrifice in the Brahmana Texts, Medicine, its magico-religious aspects, Music in the Veda, Apastamba Shrauta Sutra, its English translation with notes, Katyayana Shrauta Sutra, its English translation with notes, History of Sanskrit Philology and the Indian Archaeosophy, which is a translation of the book in German by E. Windisch. He has translated that into English. Vedic Mythology is a translation of the book in German by H. G.U.Thite into English. Agnishtoma, this is a translation of the book in French into English. This book was written by W. Calland and V. Henry. Yajna, Ashay and Avishkar is a collection of articles. Similarly, Yajna, Kal, Az, Udya is a collection of lectures that he had delivered at the Kaushika Vyakhyanmala. He has also more than 200 articles in English, Sanskrit and Marathi published in various reputed national and international journals. Last year, a seminar was organized at the University of California, Berkeley in his honor. He is a serious scholar of Vedic religion and philosophy. Let us now begin the interview. Sir, what made you enter this chosen field of research?
Really speaking, I was interested in Sanskrit studies in general from my childhood, and when I was in 8th standard, I formally started Sanskrit studies. And then when I joined the University of Pune for the sake of MA classes, then I chose Veda as my special subject. And from the very beginning, I was interested in Vedic religion, Vedic philosophy, and all the other branches of Sanskrit literature as such.
Now, since you've said about Vedic literature that it is your primary interest, so please explain the nature and content of Vedic literature in brief and the place of philosophy in Vedic literature.
Yes, Vedic literature is mainly divided into two parts. One is called mantra, and in that part the Samhitas like Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda, they are included, and the other part is called Brahmana, and in the Brahmana section Upanishads are also included, Aranyakas are also included, Brahmana texts are also included. Mainly Vedic literature is religious literature, but there are also philosophical thoughts scattered all over the literature. And
so I would like to know now, theology, ontology, cosmology, epistemology, these are the essentials of philosophy. So how are they reflected in Vedic philosophy?
We get references to all these subjects which are parts of Vedic philosophy, and particularly in Rigveda there is a lot of information on Vedic mythology. When we turn to Brahmana texts,
before we go to the Brahmana text, sir, I would request you to tell us something about the Purusha Sukta and the Nasadiya Sukta. Doesn't that have a lot of philosophy in it?
Yes, yes. in Rigveda there are some hymns which can be called philosophical hymns, and two hymns may be mentioned in this context, mainly Nasadiya Sukta and Purusha Sukta.
What is the meaning of Nasadiya?
The word Nasadiya actually is derived from the first word of that Sukta, and the Sukta begins with the word Nasadasi, No Sadasit, etc. So, the word Nasad occurs in the beginning, therefore, that hymn is called Nasadiya Sukta. And Purusha Sukta is of course describing the primordial man, Purusha, and both these hymns mainly deal with origin of the world, and there are numerous theories about the origin of the world in these hymns.
Yeah. So, can you tell us about those theories of evolution?
Yes, Nasadiya Sukta is very important from this point of view. In this hymn, numerous opinions of various scholars are mentioned there. For example, according to some scholars, in the beginning there was something which may be considered as a negative principle, or according to some others it may be positive principle, so asat or sat. But the general tone of this hymn is negative. It has been said there that we cannot say that in the beginning there was a non-existing principle, or we also cannot say that there was something positive principle in the beginning. So, Nasadasi, No Sadasit, and then other views are also mentioned. For example, according to some, it was a kind of darkness only.
Yeah, so Tamovada.
Tamas is mentioned to be the original principle.
Okay.
But that also is denied. Similarly, according to some scholars, there was only a big water, but the water which we cannot define what type of water it was. So, the word which is used there, Salilam Apraketam. So, Apraketam means that which we do not have any sign of it. So, it was a different type of water. We can call it Ur water or original water. And so on. And in this way, numerous theories about the origin of the world are implied there, but almost all of them they are denied. It is also said that originally there was the principle, namely desire or kama. So, kamas tadagre samavartata adhi. This is also a famous line. And ultimately, the sukta or this hymn ends in agnosticism. And it is said that neither we can know, nor even the God who is in the sky somewhere above us, whether he also knows it or not, we cannot say. So, ultimately the conclusion is rather negative than positive. But this hymn is very important because numerous theories about the origin of the world are mentioned there. So, it indicates that there must have been many scholars who may be thinking in philosophical terms, and they were holding different views. And similarly is the case of Purusha Sukta also. Purusha Sukta.
What is the nature and the evolution of Purusha then?
Purusha Sukta actually gives a different type of theory, according to which originally there was a very cosmic, big sized man, and that is called Virat. And out of his body, when that man, Virat man, he was sacrificed in the kind of human sacrifice by gods. Out of his different parts of the body, like head, hands, feet, etc., different things, different type of people came into existence. So, ultimately it is said that it is the sacrifice or yajna out of which this world has come into existence. So, both these hymns are very important from the point of view of cosmogony and cosmology also, and the origin of the world. So, these hymns are philosophical hymns, and one more important principle is mentioned in some other parts of the Rigveda, and that is also worth remembering. There is a famous line, Ekam Sat Vipraha Bahudha Vadanti. So, the original truth is only one, but it is described in different way by different scholars. So, the word Vipra means inspired poets or inspired people, that is philosophers, they describe it in a different way. So, a kind of liberal way of thinking is indicated in this Rigveda, and therefore, Rigvedic philosophy also deserves to be studied very seriously.
Now we should turn, I think, to the Samhitas and the Brahmanas.
Yes.
What was their nature?
So, in between we may also mention Atharvaveda, which is a part of Samhita text. And in Atharvaveda also there are many philosophical hymns, and for example, there is a hymn in which Kal or time is described, and it is also described to be one of the original principles of this world. Similarly, there is also a sukta which can be called Kama Sukta. So, Kama is also, that is desire, is considered to be the original principle of the world, and there are other hymns also in which the concept of Brahman is also mentioned. So, all these thoughts are very important from the point of view of philosophy. Now, when we come to Brahmana texts, the main subject matter of the Brahmana text is Vedic ritual, but in the context of Vedic ritual itself, we get numerous questions and answers of different scholars, and there are discussions, and some of these discussions are important from the point of view of philosophy, and this philosophy again is connected with the origin of the world, how this world came into existence, what was the original principle, and so on. So, the Brahmana texts are also very important in this respect, and there is a very important book written by Oldenburg. He has described the world view of the Brahmana text. That book is in German, and now at present I am actually translating that book into English.
That would be a very good contribution, because the German is very old, archaic type of German, and very difficult to understand.
Long sentences
so
there
for
are.
Scholars like us, this would be a boon.
But this scholar has studied this topic very seriously, and this is a very important book. So, the philosophy of the Brahmanas is discussed there, and in that philosophy he has actually indicated that there are roots of later philosophical systems in the Brahmana texts, and the last sentence of this book is that the steps of Buddha are slowly coming near towards us through the Brahmana texts. So, that is how he has described that the philosophical systems of the later times also have their origins in the Brahmana texts. So, this is the importance of Brahmana texts in the history of Indian philosophy.
So after the Brahmana texts, I am sure come the Upanishads, isn't it?
Yes, in between.
So they are the main philosophical sources.
Yes, they are directly connected with Upanishads.
So what is their age and style and content of the, what is the content of the Upanishads then?
The main contents of the Upanishads are of course philosophical, but they also contain numerous ritual references too.
So could you highlight those philosophical thoughts?
Yes.
And especially their contribution and the place in the field of Indian philosophy?
Yes. So actually sometimes it becomes very difficult to differentiate between Brahmana texts and Upanishad texts. Technically speaking, Upanishad texts are also a part of the Brahmana text. And where the ritual comes to an end and the philosophy starts, it is very difficult to describe many times. But the Upanishads also deal with the origin of the world. And again different thoughts are mentioned there about the origin of the world. Numerous stories are there, how in the beginning there was a god called Prajapati, and he created this world out of his penance. This world came into existence. Such stories are there, and Upanishads are so rich in various thoughts that we can rightly call them to be the beginnings of Indian philosophy, which flourished in later years.
So these Upanishads, of course, they don't therefore seem to be specifically created for propagating any certain ism then.
Yes. So in Upanishads we do not find any particular type of philosophical system. There are numerous scattered thoughts, and we can call them floating thoughts. And there were free thinkers, and everybody was making his own contribution to the Indian philosophy. Therefore, scholars like R.D. Ranade and Dr. Belwalkar, they have called the Upanishads creative period of Indian history, history of philosophy. So that philosophy is not any particular type of system. In later years, we get these schools like monism or dualism.
Yeah,
and
I was
so
going
on.
to come to that because this polytheism to henotheism and then to monotheism and then to monism. So this seems to be the intellectual progress, and it indicates the development of the Indian philosophy.
Yes, in Rigveda we find that there are numerous gods and there were followers of different gods.
Yeah, so this was polytheism.
This can be called polytheism.
Yeah.
But still, between polytheism and monotheism, there is one very important stage which can be called henotheism.
Yeah.
And this word henotheism was created by Max Muller, and he says that henotheism means successive glorification of different deities. So, suppose at the time of praising Vishnu, they will describe that Vishnu is the greatest god. When there is a description of Indra, they will call Indra as the best god. Similarly, when Varuna is being praised, Varuna is considered to be the supreme god. So, so whatever god is in the context, that god is considered to be the highest and the greatest one. And other gods are comparatively subsidiary to him. So, this type of henotheism is found not only in the Rigveda, but even in later literature, in Puranas also. And on the basis of this henotheism, I have developed another theory, and which can be called henoism.
Yeah.
So, I have said not only deity, heno and thei, the word thei means deity. So, not only there is a successive glorification of a deity in Indian literature, anything which is in the context is considered to be the supreme one at that particular moment. And in this way, successively different things are considered to be the highest one. For example, in Purana texts we find descriptions of different deities, and each deity is considered to be the greatest deity. There are Shaiva Puranas, there are Vaishnava Puranas,
so these are the sectarian
and even the regarding the Tirtha Kshetras, that is the pilgrimage places. When a particular place is being described, it is considered or described to be the best one or the highest one. Similarly, at the time of describing rituals, sacrifices, a particular sacrifice, when it is being praised, it is considered to be the best type of sacrifice. So, this I have described as heno-ritualism. So, in this way there is henotheism, heno-ritualism and henoism in general in Indian way of thinking. That point I have emphasized. So, from polytheism, then people came to monotheism through henotheism. And from monotheism, they started thinking in one principle only, that is monism. And in Upanishads, similarly, not only in Upanishads but even in Brahmana texts, we find the concept of monism. And there must be some principle which can be called in different words. It may be called sometimes Brahman, it may be called Atman, but it is one, and out of this one principle all these this world has come into existence, and it has been differently manifested. And therefore, in Upanishads we get the sentence like I am Atma Brahma. So, Brahman and Atman is one and the same, and Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, all this is nothing but Brahman. And Tattvamasi, you, O student, you are that means Brahman. So, you are identical with Brahman. So, even though apparently we feel that there are numerous things, ultimately there is only one principle, and that principle is Brahman or Atman. This type of monism is described in Upanishads. But as I have said earlier, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahudha Vadanti. So this origin of monism can be found even in Rigveda also.
Yeah.
So this thought is developed in later Upanishads, and of course in Upanishads there are also thoughts which can be considered to be dualistic, and these later scholars who are dualistic, they find their source in Upanishads only.
Yeah.
So followers of Vedanta, that is Advaita, Dvaita, etc., all of them, they take sentences from Upanishads, because in Upanishads no particular system is mentioned. Different thoughts are there, but still the thoughts on monism, they are in majority.
Okay.
This is what we can say.
Okay. Now, since we are dealing with the Vedic literature, so I want to know, it seems that Vedic mythology and Vedic religion, they are closely connected.
Yes.
And so also Vedic religion and Vedic philosophy. So please comment on that.
Actually, there is Vedic mythology, religion, philosophy. We make some difference in these subjects, but they are so closely connected with each other that it becomes sometimes difficult to differentiate between these two things. That is, what is religion, what is philosophy. Particularly in the Vedic literature, everything is expressed in a very mixed manner, and therefore it is hardly possible to differentiate between the Vedic religion and Vedic philosophy. Both these things are, you can say, two sides of the same coin, and both of them, they are very closely connected with each other, and therefore one who studies Vedic religion naturally studies Vedic philosophy also, and one who studies Vedic philosophy will have to study Vedic religion also. And again, in religion we have to study mythology and Vedic sacrifices, that is rituals. So all these three things are also closely connected with each other, and they influence upon each other. That is how Vedic philosophy is associated with Vedic religion and mythology also.
Yeah. So ritualism of the Brahmanas are the roots of spiritualism, isn't it then?
Yes, because while discussing the Vedic rituals or Vedic sacrifices, the scholars have developed their philosophy. And as I have said previously, there were many pre-thinkers, but they were performers of rituals also. And in the context of rituals only, there used to be some gatherings of learned people, and they used to ask questions, they used to give answers, and there these philosophical subjects also were being discussed. So in the context of the ritual only, the origins of spiritualism can be found. My PhD thesis was on the Brahmana text, sacrifice in the Brahmana text. That was my topic of the research, and in that thesis I have tried to prove that the ritualism of the Brahmana text and the spiritualism in it, they are very closely connected, and in the ritualism itself there are roots of spiritualism. That is my main thesis.
And I want to know whether these Aranyaka texts, don't they also contribute in this progress from ritualism to spiritualism?
Yes, really speaking, Brahmana texts and Aranyaka texts and Upanishad texts, all of them, they are part of one and the same genre, and this genre is called Brahmana. So Aranyaka, Upanishads, they are not really speaking separate genres, but rather parts of Brahmana texts. And therefore in the text like Shatavata Brahmana, we find that there is an Upanishad which is called Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So in that name itself you will find the word Aranyaka also and Upanishad also, and this is a part of Shatavata Brahmana. So it is very difficult to differentiate one type of text from the other type of text. And Aranyakas also describe Vedic ritual, and also they give philosophical thoughts. So they also have a very important contribution to make towards the philosophy of Vedic time.
You were referring to Professor S.K. Belwalkar and R.D. Ranade. So, if you could tell us about the contribution of these scholars like Belwalkar, Ranade, Deussen,
Yes.
Schopenhauer, they have made a big contribution to the field of philosophy.
Yes, Schopenhauer was highly impressed by the Upanishadic philosophy, and in Germany there were many scholars who were studying Vedic texts and Vedic literature in general. Upanishads also, Deussen has translated many Upanishads. He has also written a history of Indian philosophy. So, that book also is very important. All these texts are written in German. Similarly, Belwalkar and Ranade, they had a very big plan of writing a complete history of Indian philosophy. That plan is also published. They started that work, and only the first part was published, which was devoted to Upanishads. And they both of them, they have written in that book, and they have given a critical survey of Upanishads. Also they have described the age of Upanishads, they have described the main thoughts in the Upanishads, and they have rightly called that Upanishadic period creative period. And it is a creative period from the point of view of the history of Vedic philosophy. And Dr. Ranade, he has written an independently also one book which is named Constructive Survey of Upanishadic Philosophy. So, that book is also very important and very scholarly. Dr. Ranade was a great scholar of Greek also. He was knowing German, he was knowing Kannada language, he was knowing Marathi, he was knowing Hindi, of course he was knowing English. So, he was a great scholar from all point of view, and therefore, his treatment of Upanishads is very scientific and very serious. He has shown how we find the roots of later systems of Indian philosophy in Upanishads. For example, later philosophical systems like Buddhism or Jainism or Nyaya philosophy and Vedanta philosophy, all these philosophies, they have their origins in the Upanishads, and he has given all the details of this subject, and his book is very seriously written, and not a single sentence you will find without any reference or first hand reference to the Upanishadic text. So, it can be considered as an ideal thesis from the point of view of research methodology. And I generally prescribe this book to be read by any student of research in the field of Sanskrit. How an ideal thesis should be written. So, it should be like Constructive Survey of Upanishads by R.D. Ranade. And Ranade also wrote many books on mysticism in different parts of India, like mysticism in Maharashtra, mysticism in Hindi speaking areas, mysticism in Kannada speaking areas, particularly the literature of saints. He has given emphasis on this. So, he was a great philosopher also, but unfortunately that scheme which was planned by Dr. Belwalkar and Dr. Ranade, it could not be completed. Only one part was written, and later on that project was discontinued. So, this is a great academic loss from the point of view of us, that is we who are students of Indian philosophy and Vedic religion. So, from their point of view it is a great loss, but somehow that plan could not be completed. But of course, there are other books like books written by S.N. Dasgupta, who has written a complete history of Indian philosophy, and there are many books in German or French or English and other languages in India.
Tell us about Deussen. He has
Deussen also has
translated that into the Upanishads.
He has written a history of Indian philosophy. He has translated 60 Upanishads into German, and that translation also has been now translated into English. So, one can read these books, and one can get a good idea about the Indian philosophy in general.
Now, again coming back to sacrifice, because that is your main field of research. So tell us about your book Yajna, Ashaya and Avishkar.
Yajna, Ashaya and Avishkar is a collection of essays written by numerous scholars. One seminar was organized on sacrifice, and in that seminar, sacrifice was studied from different angles, and you can find an essay on Vedic ritual and Jainism, Vedic ritual and later philosophical systems like Buddhism and other aspects also. So it is an effort was made to make a comprehensive study of the Vedic ritual in that book, and it was edited by me, but the essays were written by numerous other scholars. There is also an introduction by Lakshman Shastri Doshi there. So that book is interesting from the point of view of a student of Vedic ritual.
Now, since we've been talking about ritual or sacrifice and philosophy, so is there a conflict between the sacrifice of the Brahmana texts and the philosophy of the Upanishads? Because we come across so many references to the Upanishads censuring the sacrifice. So,
Yes.
is this conflict so strong?
One may feel that there is some conflict between the ritualism and spiritualism, because at times we find that there is some reference to the thinking which was anti-ritual. For example, there is a famous sentence, Plava Yete Adhudaha Yajna Rupaha. So the sacrifices are considered to be similar to ships which are not very firm, and so it is not very safe to have journey or travel in that
such
type of
unstable ships.
in that type of. So it indicates that if one wants to achieve salvation or the ultimate goal like moksha, it is not possible to reach that goal through Vedic ritual or Vedic sacrifice. So there are such sentences, and on the basis of such sentences, some scholars like Dyson and other German scholars, they have tried to say that there was a kind of revolt from the scholars towards the Vedic ritual, and out of such revolt the Upanishadic philosophy came into existence. But I think this is a kind of exaggeration. Although there are some sentences which are against Vedic ritual, even the philosophical texts also sometimes describe their philosophy in the terminology of ritual. See, for example, the texts like Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, where we get many philosophical thoughts in the context of Ashwamedha sacrifice, and even in other texts, Upanishad texts also we find these things. And also we find that in the Brahmana texts, although they are mainly describing Vedic sacrifices, there are philosophical discussions also. So if we see minutely and take a complete view of the texts like Brahmanas or Upanishads, we may feel that there is no such contrast between Vedic ritualism and spiritualism. Actually, both are complementary to each other. And in the context of the ritualism, only spiritualism developed. In the context of the Vedic sacrifices, only Vedic philosophy of Upanishads was also developed. So the view that there is some contrast between Vedic ritualism and the philosophy of the Vedas is not completely correct. Although a few references are also found which may give us
That
some
impression.
scope
Okay.
to think like that.
Okay. Some scholars say that this conflict between sacrifice and philosophy further transformed into the conflict between the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas. So what is your opinion on it?
That also is only partly true. There are some philosophers like Janaka, for example, who were kings, and on the basis of one or two examples, we cannot exaggerate that there was some conflict between Brahmanas and Kshatriyas like that, because there were all types of thinkers and some of these thinkers were even Shudras. So, we cannot make such type of statements like philosophy was a province of Kshatriyas and ritualism or the Vedic sacrifices was the province of Brahmanas and so on, because the Kshatriyas were also performing sacrifices and Brahmanas were also thinking philosophically. And in this context, we may particularly remember the scholar, ancient Indian scholar Yajnavalkya, who was a great expert in the field of sacrifice also, and he was also a great thinker and philosopher, and his thoughts are found in the Shatavata Brahmana in all parts of the text. In the parts which are discussing sacrifices, there also his contribution is noteworthy, and in the philosophical parts like Brihadaranyaka Upanishad also his role is very important. So, we cannot make a generalization that there was a conflict between Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. There may be only exceptional things like this, but by and large we can say that all types of thinkers there were, and many floating scholars there were, as I have mentioned. So, it is from the point of view of Western scholars, sometimes they give more importance to the conflict between Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, but this is a kind of exaggeration. There was no such conflict, and both of these castes, they were complementary to each other, and Vedic ritual and Vedic philosophy, these were also complementary to each other.
You had the privilege of delivering the Kaushika Vyakhyanmala, sir.
Yes.
So, please tell us about those lectures. They were entitled Yajna, Kal, Aaj and Udya. So, what were they about?
It was my intention to give a brief history of Vedic sacrifices in that book. The lectures were given in SP College, and this lecture series called Kaushika Vyakhyanmala is almost more than 50 years old, and it started somewhere in 1958, and then continuously these lectures were being given. Alternately, one lecture was on Vedic religion and another lecture was on Indian philosophy or say, literature of saints, and scholars like Dr. Dandekar and many other Indian scholars, they have given lectures in that series. So, my topic was Yajna, Kala, Udya. So, first I have tried to give a history of Vedic sacrifices, and then I have also described the present situation of Vedic sacrifices, and I have also indicated what will be the future of Vedic ritual as such. And there one point I have emphasized, that in the history of Vedic ritual we find a very important principle which can be called convenient compromise. So, this is the main topic of that lecture series, how compromises were made by different scholars in while performing performing the Vedic rituals in past and present, and I have also indicated that with such type of compromises the Vedic ritual will continue to be performed even in future. Although there may be sometimes some ups and downs, as in the case of economics, there is sometimes boom time, sometimes there is some slow times are there. Similarly, in the history of Vedic ritual also, sometimes there used to be many sacrifices, sometimes there used to be no sacrifices, sometimes there used to be less sacrifices and so on. In that book, I have also tried to show that Sanskrit scholars in general, although they are sometimes experts in grammar, sometimes experts in Vedanta, sometimes experts in Nyaya, etc., or Mimamsa, they generally do not have sufficient knowledge of Vedic ritual. So, they might have heard the names like Ashwamedha, etc., but hardly anyone knows how exactly Ashwamedha sacrifice is performed, how much time will it be necessary to perform it, how much expenditure will be necessary, and so on. So, I have tried to show that there were many sacrifices which were known only by names, but in practice they were never performed in accordance with the descriptions as we find them in the Brahmana texts or Shrauta Sutras.
Yeah.
And in that category I have mentioned the sacrifices like Ashwamedha, Rajasuya, or even the some sacrifices which are to be performed for 1000 years.
Yeah.
Practically it is impossible to perform a sacrifice for 1000 years and so on. So, fictitious sacrifices and such rituals were there. So, and I have also described how compromises were made even in the case of Soma.
Yeah.
Soma, this juice and the type of the herb out of which the Soma juice is produced. It is not possible to get Soma herb or Soma creeper, and therefore some substitutes were being used and so on. So, I have given different types of examples of this topic and I have also discussed why there were some people who used to oppose the performances of Veda, performances of Vedic sacrifices. In ancient days where also there were some opponents, in modern days also there are some opponents, and possibly in future also there will be some opponents. Some people say that there is lot of expenditure there, it is a kind of wastage of money and so on. But I have tried to show that wastage, theoretically there should not be wastage, that is true, but practically wastage does happen in every field. And so, there is, if there is some wastage in the of money and food etc. in Vedic ritual, that is comparatively very small one, and therefore it is tolerable. That is what I want to say, because it is a part of religious feelings of some people, although the performers are comparatively few, very few, and the followers of Vedic rituals are also very few. There are many other festivals which are also being performed by other people, and lot of expenditure is being done there, and that also can be described as wastage, wastage of electricity, wastage of human enthusiasm also. All this is true. So, it is necessary to avoid such things, but it is not possible to avoid wastage. That is what I have tried to show.
I want to take you to this work that you have edited, Charvaka Samiksha. Tell us about it.
Charvaka Samiksha is also a kind of collection of essays on Charvaka philosophy. Actually, I was one of the organizers of seminar on Charvaka philosophy, and this seminar was organized in Bharat Itihas Sanshodhak Mandal in 1978. And after that seminar was over, all the papers were edited by me and they were published on Charvaka, because Charvaka is comparatively a neglected subject, and sometimes people also laugh at Charvaka, and they have also some misunderstanding regarding the Charvaka philosophy. So, therefore, the title of that work is very significant. It is called Charvaka Samiksha. So, it is a kind of Samiksha means a kind of criticism from all points of view. We neither want to support Charvaka philosophy nor we want to refute it, we want to study it. And from that point of view, almost 12 or 13 essays were written, and these papers were read in a seminar, and we had tried to give a history of Charvaka philosophy in that book.
So, now what are you currently working on?
Now, at present I am trying to translate some of these German and French books from German and French into English. I have already published 1 or 2 German books and 1 book from French, but there are 2-3 books which are still unpublished. For example, at present I am trying to translate the work of Oldenburg on Brahmana texts.
Yeah, the one you referred to,
which I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Similarly, there is a very important book written by Mayer. That book deals with Indian festivals, festivals like Holi, for example, or festivals like Deepavali and so on. So, this book is divided into 3 parts, and the book is called Trilogy in German. So, Trilogy, that is a kind of 3 parts book, and one is called Indra, another one is called Varuna, another one is called Bali. So, these books almost each book consists of 300 pages and the total number of the book is about 950 pages. So, this I have translated into English and I am trying to get it published now. And
so, we look forward to that book now.
Similarly, we will find some other books also. For example, there are two books which I have translated from French into English, but they have not yet published. One is regarding the Vedic schools, schools of Veda. So, there are different branches which are called technically shakhas of Veda. So, about that Ranu has written one book. Similarly, there is another book on the history of Vedic interpretation, and numerous scholars have done numerous efforts to try to interpret Veda, and Ranu has made a critical evaluation of all these efforts. So, that book also I have translated. It is not yet published, but I am trying to get them published.
So, we look forward to these works now.
So, in this way there are some books. Recently you have already referred to the book of G.U.Thite, which is on Vedic mythology. That book is now published. So, I am trying to concentrate on some German and French books and trying to translate them into English.
What is the significance of studying philosophy according to you and its presence in the present day scenario?
Philosophy is a very important academic subject. Day to day life, there is no connection with philosophical thoughts of our practical life, because practical life is based upon practical rules, and but philosophy is something which can be studied seriously in places like university, and it is an academic subject. So, there is no such great subject like philosophy which can be studied in an academy. The word academy originally it is a Greek word, and there was a kind of garden in Greece which was called academy, and in that garden scholars used to sit and discuss, and these discussions they were also sometimes called symposium, and symposium actually means to drink together. So, people used to drink and discuss on philosophy. So, great Greek philosophers like Aristotle, Plato, Socrates and so on, this type of academic discussions they are continuously being done, and even today they are being done. Similar was the case in Indian scenario also. There were great thinkers, and there were in Sanskrit the word Shastrartha Sabha is called Shastrartha Sabha. So, in these Shastrartha Sabhas philosophical thoughts are discussed. There are some refutations of different views, Dvaita, Advaita, such different types of Vedanta philosophy, and Nyaya, Mimamsa and grammar. All these sciences they have their own philosophical background, and on that people have some discussions. So, it is a kind of academic subject according to me, and which has no direct connection with day to day life.
So, you don't want to get into the relevance thing of it.
So, to seek relevance of philosophy will be very difficult, because it is a kind of academic subject, and how to live practically, that to this question no philosopher can give any answer, and but he can discuss about the origin of the world, what is the ultimate reality, and how to get salvation or moksha and so on. Such questions are important in philosophy, but day to day life these questions do not have any importance at all. That is obvious, and we cannot claim that philosophy has day to day relevance, although it has a great academic relevance, that is obvious.
What role do you see this philosophy could play in resolving issues of conflicts which are faced by man in his day to day life?
As I said, it is rather academic subject, but regarding the practical life also there are conflicts. For example, there are conflict between religious followers of different religions.
Yeah.
They create lot of disturbances, etc. So, the philosophy of peace will be of course very important. People should learn such things and try to modify their behavior. That is what we expect, but in spite of the great thinkers, there have been a lot of battles, there have been wars, and whatever thoughts of peace have been taught by the philosophers. Everybody respects those philosophers, but nobody follows them. That is a kind of, you can say, a kind of tragedy, but it is a fact.
Yeah.
But still, people should try to follow these philosophical thinkers and adopt those philosophical thoughts.
Yeah. Sir, please tell us about your association with this Department of Philosophy in this University of Pune. You've been associated for a long time with this department.
I was a student of Sanskrit and I was also teaching there in Sanskrit department, but I was a keen observer of philosophy department also. People perhaps do not know this thing, but it is a historical fact that the seminar culture was introduced in Pune University by philosophy department.
Okay.
When Dr. Barlinge took his charge, it was something 1977-78 or something like that, and he first started organizing seminars in philosophy department. And then one of the scholars from Sanskrit department who used to attend those philosophy department seminars, he once said to the head of the department, at that time Dr. Joshi was the head of the department, why don't we have such seminars, Sanskrit department. And then in 1980, first seminar was organized by the Center of Advanced Study in Sanskrit. It was on Vakyartha, so the meaning of sentence, a grammatical subject was there, and an international seminar was organized. And then of course, there are every year now seminar there are arranged by almost all departments. Even Sanskrit departments arranges seminar, Center of Advanced Study in Sanskrit also arranges seminars. Sometimes more than 1 or 2 or 3 seminars are arranged, and now there is a seminar culture which is widely accepted and established. But when I was a student of MA or even PhD, even after my PhD, there only once in 2 years we could get an opportunity to read our papers or to participate in such conferences. That was all India Oriental Conference. But earlier there was no opportunity. But now there are so many conferences or seminars being arranged that it is sometimes becoming difficult to read so many papers in so many seminars. So, this seminar culture was introduced to the Pune University by philosophy department, and that is by Dr. Barlinge. This I remember very well. So, this is a great contribution, and therefore, I consider it to be an important point.
What is your advice to the young teachers and students of philosophy?
Really speaking, I do not consider myself to be great enough to advise anybody, but still as a friend I will advise that whatever subject they take, they should take it seriously. And I remember a sentence which was always being used by Dr. R.N. Dandekar. He always used to say whatever is worth doing is worth doing well. So, whatever subject we are studying, whether it is philosophy or Sanskrit or Hindi or other economics, etc., we should do it seriously. That is the only thing which I would recommend. And every generation we find that there are some serious students. So, this university is also now more than 60 years old, but there have been scholars in the beginning, in between, and now also, and they are continuing that tradition. So, it will be like this. So, not if there are 100 students, Not all of them are very serious, but at least 4 or 5% of the students, they are serious and they continue the tradition of that subject. So, it is not necessary to even give an advice to them that you should take your subject seriously and do serious work, etc. Do not indulge into some other conflicts, etc. Some people will do some social work, some people will do some politics, some people will do academic studies and so on. So, that is quite natural, and I would only say that whatever work they want to do, they should do it seriously.
Thank you, sir, for your advice.
So, I also thank the Department of Philosophy and Dr. Mule particularly, who has given me this opportunity to express myself and to have some discussion with you. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
ॐ न सदासीन्नो सदासीत्तदानीं नासीद्रजो नो व्योमा परो यत् किमावरीवः कुहकस्य शरमन्नो अम्भः किमासीद् गहनं गभीरम्